Now, what's common to placebo, nocebo, and belief effects is that they all work by changing expectation. And anytime we talk about expectation, we're talking about the function of the nervous system, and specifically the brain, and specifically the prefrontal cortex within the brain. The prefrontal cortex is neural real estate, which is just fancy nerd speak for the neurons and their connections that reside just behind your forehead. The overall function of the prefrontal cortex can be described as having the ability to either activate or suppress other neural circuits deeper in the brain. The prefrontal cortex can generally be described as the structure in the brain that controls other structures in the brain by saying shh or suppressing their function. So for instance, if you have the impulse to move or to shout, the prefrontal cortex suppresses that movement or suppresses that desire to shout or that shouting. If you've ever had the experience of, going to the edge of a cliff or being on a high bridge and thinking, oh my goodness, you just have this spontaneous thought, which please don't do this in action, but one will have this thought like, oh my goodness, what if I just jumped off? The prefrontal cortex, being largely a context evaluating and prediction machine, is essentially looking at that landscape and predicting what would happen, indeed how bad it would be if you were to jump off that bridge. Again, the prefrontal cortex is involved in suppressing certain types of behaviors.
It's only when you're sick of your sickness that you'll get out of it. One sign that you've woken up, you're asking yourself, am I crazy or are all of them? The whole world is crazy.
The larger theme of the prefrontal cortex that we need to consider today is that it is an expectation or prediction-making machine.
Every new idea, every great idea, when it first began, was in a minority of one.
It is a bunch of neurons that release chemicals and have electrical activity that are speaking with and receiving information from other areas of the brain, and it's evaluating a number of things like context, like what's going on in this room, what's going on in this scene, what's supposed to happen here, what might I do, what should I not do. Is that some of those subdivisions have a unique, what we call labeled line communication, like a unique highway that leads to specific brain areas that control specific bodily functions, including heart rate, blood pressure rate, in reference to beliefs or what's happening in a social scene. And this is very different from the way that, say, getting into cold water or experiencing some other sort of stressor causes increase in heart rate or vasoconstriction. What we're talking about here when we talk about placebo, nocebo, and belief effects are the way in which you learn information or you are told information like, hey, this pill is going to do blank. Maybe you learn some information about what some specific drug or supplement or behavioral protocol will do. And in that learning, you come to expect a specific set of effects. And certain neural circuits in the prefrontal cortex become active and start to activate certain neural circuits deeper in the brain. So the prefrontal cortex is a sophisticated area of your brain that takes into account context, both in the present as well as memories from the past. It can take into consideration goals about the future, and then combines all of that into neural signals to areas of the brain that control basic physiological functions related to the immune system, the stress system, the reward system, the pleasure system.
What are you doing?
For information
Kevin.
and specific experiences to lead to expectations within us about what's going to happen, and then our physiology of our brain and body fundamentally changes such that those things happen.
I guess he doesn't need his pills anymore.
Oh, forgot something. Forgot my meds.
You know that flower's poisonous, right?
We'll see about that.